Hey guys, welcome to the Simplicity Project. My name is Elva and I am the founder and CEO of the Simplicity Project. As I promised before, I would like to start with my story, and it took me a very long time to decide on a title. And you know what? I think we found it. And I think we're going to really hone down on how I was a 60-year-old woman living in the body of a 27-year-old. So I do want to introduce my guest today. She's my personal psychologist, so I can't get as vulnerable as that. Honestly, this is going to be such a fun time just walking through, my process, going to therapy for the past year and a half. And I'm excited. I've invested so much time into my spiritual pillar, my financial pillar, into my social pillar, and my physical pillar, but I never wanted to even touch the mental pillar. And that's why I brought in Dr. Short. I'd like for you to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here to share the work that you've done over the last year with you. My name is Dr. Samantha Short, and I'm a licensed psychologist. And I've been practicing in private practice for about 8 years. I started in psychology in my early 20s, so about half my life now. And I think a really good place to start, Elva, is to let them know why you finally sought the clinical route.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I do want to make sure that I mention is I wanted to get rid of the taboo. Why am I not going to seek mentors that specialize in the mental field? Yeah. Why am I not going to do it?
Yeah.
What prevented me this long to do it? Because I reached 27, I'm 29 now. Why did I wait so long? And I didn't even know. I needed to go have a conversation. I needed to keep it simple. And at this point, I had lived such a great life in the religious world, with my religious lifestyle. Now that I've turned into simply faith, and I have also lived in the business world, and I've experienced a lot with business partners, with a lot of managers, a lot of CEOs and founders, and nobody could really understand who I was.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that if they got me to believe in their vision, I would make them, successful. They wanted to, whether it was in the religious field, in the religious organizations, or in the business world, they knew that I could get it done for them, or at least help them.
Yeah.
So the survival mode for me, I didn't even know that was a term.
Yeah. I remember when...
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I remember when you came into session. It's one of my favorite memories. I have a few, but you were just sharing about all these accomplishments, all these things you were doing, all these places you were going, all these people we were helping. And I remember telling you, I am so exhausted just listening.
And I'm like, I'm exhausted too. I mean, I am physically tired.
Yeah.
I was physically tired, mentally tired, and I could not find the answers to my questions.
Yeah.
Throughout all of these years in the religious world, in the religious organizations that I've been a part of, several teams, or in the business world, I couldn't find those answers. So I decided to go against, my pride and be as vulnerable as I could be. I wanted to go the clinical route.
Yeah.
It's very important because I needed to find results. I wanted to prove that I can understand how my brain works. Yeah. I think it's important. There's a reason why everything works the way it works in our brain and how it is triggered. And I really didn't have any experience or knowledge in that. So I wanted to explore and understand my brain.
Yeah. And one of the things that we began to see is I began to do like an interview, just to get to know you, get to know your history, get to know your medical history, your family history, your medical history.
And nobody had asked me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 27 imagine being 27 and being a part of so many religious organizations. Nobody asked me, what have you been through?
Yeah.
Nobody could actually pinpoint it.
Yeah.
Nobody would probably even think that I had been through a lot, since a very young age. So as am here right now, I want to be as vulnerable and as transparent. I did hit a pivotal moment in my life.
Yeah,
and it started at 8.
Yeah, share
at
some
8
of that
years
story.
Old. I mean, I was 8 years old, and it's very important to, now that I have you, that you can say, oh, this is what you went through, because I had no idea I was going through it, is when you go through sexual abuse at such a young age, you feel shame.
Yeah.
I learned how to hide a secret for a very, very long time. Reason number one, I didn't want to put shame in my family.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put shame into my faith. I didn't want to put shame into myself as a little kid. But it took me from 8 years old till 27. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah. And just to put language to it, one of the things that you discovered was, in the beginning, there was childhood sexual play, which
Correct.
is actually very common among siblings and large families.
And after even sharing, hey, this is what happened. I come from a big family. I experienced this, and I had to come to a realization that it was pleasurable. Like I enjoyed it. When I was 8, I enjoyed it. I hadn't reached the moment in time and with my brain that morally I didn't even know it was wrong, because I hadn't developed that in my brain yet. I was so young.
Yeah.
So young, 8 years old, exploring here and there, and then finding pleasure at such a young age. And that's what you kind of told me.
Then we learned, how it can go from, childhood sexual play, which is exploratory.
Correct.
You're kind of exploring, discovering, touching.
Yes.
To more severe, which is you started to experience molestation.
Correct.
And, that can happen with the duration, the, age differences, older cousins, siblings.
Correct.
And it began to move into trauma.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm at 8 years old, very pivotal moment. I am keeping a secret from my parents, from my siblings, from, at that point we're attending a religious organization. I kept it from anybody that I surrounded myself with, my friends at school. Nobody knew what was happening. And I was not going to tell anybody, because that's what was taught. You have to be
the research,
a perfect person.
The research shows that, 40% of children that are sexually abused come from a family member. 90% they knew the person. And, 40% or so don't ever disclose.
Yeah.
Ever disclose.
They don't even disclose it. I mean, I'm 27 years old, and you hear all of these stories. I'm a storyteller, so this is the whole point of the Simplicity Project, keeping it simple. I run into leaders who are in their, 60s, 70s, 80s that have never disclosed.
Yeah.
And they don't think it will benefit. And they actually think it will harm. Their family members. They're thinking about what other people will think about them or how it will devastate them. But it's important. If you're going through something, you need to share it, and if you have shared it, if you have invested into the mental pillar and it hasn't worked out, because there is the other side of the mental
I feel like,
world.
When you're looking for your therapist, it's got to be a good fit. Not every therapist is a good fit, but also, a lot of people have been injured in the mental health field because they're over-medicated, they're over-diagnosed.
Correct.
And part of what we did was really have a therapeutic relationship, have a conversation. And we also did some testing at the end, which I'm excited to share. Go ahead and move into that second thing we really discovered in your story.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm currently in, I have story time. I've gone through sexual abuse. It was pleasurable, turned into molestation because I no longer wanted to do it, And then I had several deaths in my family. My mom comes from a big family. Yeah. She's got 6 siblings, 4 brothers, 2 sisters. It's 7 of them. And now 2023, there's only 3 left. I've lost 3 uncles, a cousin, and in 2014, my life was shattered. So 8 years old was a pivotal moment. I can identify, wow, this was an extreme amount of pain. 2014, an extreme amount of pain because I had cried and I had suffered knowing that I had lost family members and I had been through several funerals, but they were immediate. 2014 felt like I lost my mom.
Yeah.
Like it was that real. And I had just seen her the day before. And getting the call that my uncles had a wreck, I was frustrated. I literally said, they better be alive.
Yeah.
This cannot be happening. And it hit me so hard. And I fell into that moment of just, why is this happening?
Yeah.
I've hit a pivotal moment at 8 years old, and now I'm at, 20 years old, 12 years later, and here I go through pain again.
Yeah.
And I thought that there would no longer be deaths through car wrecks that would ever happen, but it did.
And part of looking back, you were able to start to see that these pains, these traumas had developed some cycles of behavior. Let's start sharing kind of the first discovery.
Yeah. So the first cycle that I didn't even know I was in, the whole point of all of this is survival mode.
Yes.
You identified it. You're like, I'm exhausted, Elva. Who haven't you helped? Who aren't you going to help? What business are you not going to create to help those in need? What person are you not going to pause your life and your happiness to help them?
Yeah.
You're on survival mode.
Yeah. That caregiver was
hero.
birthed.
Like I was trying to rescue everybody at this point because I had been exposed to so much since a very young age at 8 years old where I needed to make sure that nobody would suffer.
Yeah.
That was like my main goal. I wanted to listen to people and be their friends with the best intentions to help them. But I also wanted to fix them.
Yeah.
I wanted to find a way to say, hey, like you're currently going through this, but I think there's an issue. We need to kind of talk about it. How
control.
Control.
Yeah.
And even manipulation at this point, because if I could continue on this survival mode and build these connections with people and they believe that I can get it done for them, then I've just continued to grow, and I can't save everybody. And I did find myself wanting to caregive.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. And in that caregiving superhero role birthed this overthinker.
Yep.
And share what it's like to be someone that overthinks and what that does and did to your mind.
Yeah. So overthinking, as simple as I can get to it, is driving in the car with a couple of friends and we're not even talking about dinner. And I'm already planning it in my head. Yeah. I'm already planning what my best friend would like to eat because I know what she likes and what she doesn't, what my other friend doesn't like to eat. And then I get to the point where I don't even think about what I want to eat.
Yeah.
Because I want to please them.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that they're pleased and I'm taking care of them because that's been my role since I was 8.
Yeah.
I was taught that to please. I was taught to hide what I want, hide what I need. I wanted to make sure that I could please everybody, take care of everybody, resolve everybody's problems. I mean, the amount of projects that I've been involved with and are incomplete, realistically speaking, because I have completed a lot, but a lot of them are incomplete.
Yeah. And part of, which I think is really important for the audience to know, is like what can happen in the trauma triangle. And so when you have been, victimized as a child, it can birth a caregiver. And that caregiver is more at high risk for being victimized because they're taking care of people that need help.
Which I had no idea.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that after, a year of going to therapy with you, I'm good. Like, oh, now I know that I've been functioning under survival mode. I have literally dedicated my entire life to other people. And I don't even know, why?
Yeah.
Why have I gotten there?
Yeah.
How did I get there?
Yeah. And then I remember this really pivotal moment where I said, when I close my eyes, tell them about that moment.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going into the session with you. This is just, a quick little memory that I had is I know that I can have a conversation with somebody that's been involved in a religious organization or a religious lifestyle. And I know the answers that I would receive.
Yeah.
A sound mind, renew your mind, reading scripture.
Yeah.
And then I know that what I would get in the business world would be, you always have to have a product. I mean, what are you going to sell?
Yeah.
How can we make money off of that need?
Yeah.
There's got to be something that we can make money on. There's always like a price or a cost. It was just very transactional. So I'm like, all relational, all transactional, spiritual, business world. And I literally remembered I'm going into my first therapy session with somebody that's not in the religious organizations or in the business world, because there's a lot of financial advisors. I mean, there's a lot of counseling in that aspect. So I wanted to go to the clinical route because you're a clinical psychologist, and I wanted to understand my brain. And for you to literally, it's an hour. We're in the room for an hour and you're like, man, I'm exhausted. Why are you trying to fix your family's problems? Why are you trying to fix your friends' problems? Why are you trying to do, all of these types of businesses for people?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to make them successful?
Yeah.
Why? And I was so in survival mode that I was so numb to it.
Yeah.
To the point that you said, we haven't even been through all of the, all of your background,
clinical history,
Elva. And if I were to close my eyes right now, you sound like a 60-year-old woman in the body of a 27-year-old.
Yeah.
And that hit me so hard. Like, I listened to that phrase for probably this entire past year and a half.
Yeah.
It's on repeat.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the results. Like, my questions were like, why is this happening? Like, I've been through sexual abuse. I've been through death. I've been through grief. I've been in the spiritual world. I've been in the financial world. Why am I still having these thoughts? And you're like, because you're literally press fast forward. Yeah. The trauma press fast forward in your life. The pain press fast forward. Yeah. And you challenged me. You were like, and that's one of the things that I really want to talk about during this first season is, how did I get to that? How did I lose 30 years of my life? If I continue to go this route and I'm 27 years old, if I do the calculations, if I'm get to 60, I would literally be living a life of a 90-year-old, right? If I do the financial calculation, realistically speaking, that's how it works. Like, if I'm 27 and I've lost almost 30 years of my life because I'm just reflecting and I'm not really enjoying and living in my present, when I actually get to 60, I'm going to be 90.
Yeah. So one of the things that I remember is like all throughout, like you would be sharing and talking, and I could hear this like huge need that you had and this huge desire. And it was to have like a partner in life, a relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
And yet you had share a little bit about that history with dating.
Yeah, for sure. So I've fast forward 30 years of my life. You've already told me you're on survival mode.
Yeah.
You've been through abuse. You've been through trauma. You've had all of these deaths, all of this pain. And you asked me, what does a 27-year-old person do, Elva? Like, what do they do?
Yeah.
And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, they date, literally. And I thought about my dating life. I've only dated one person in my life.
Yeah.
I've only dated one person.
You didn't meet your own need. And let's talk about, there was this really powerful moment where we realized you weren't dating men because you were fulfilling a different relationship.
Correct.
Share that.
So it was really interesting how after me realizing that I had had some trauma, which has led to fast forwarding 30 years of my life, now I'm going back into seeing, okay, 8 to 16, those 8 years to 16 years old, or even 18 years old. I never went through the boy crazy stage because I had felt that I needed to avoid boys because I didn't want them to take anything from me.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to take advantage of me or to force me to do things that I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I leaned more towards girls because I was the caregiver. I wanted to make sure that they wouldn't go through what I went through. Mm-hmm. But I honestly would have never known that that's what I was doing.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about how the relationship with your sister impacted.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we went from fast forwarding 30 years, and I asked him, like, is there a way to rewind? Like, how do I rewind? How do I live like a 27-year-old? What do I need to do? And there's these cycles with relationships, you know, and the relationships have all the foundation has been my past, you know, and one of the things that I was really shocked to hear is because I come from a big family, I used to do life with my sister.
Yeah.
I mean, we did everything together. We shared the same room together. We played soccer together. We did it all. We sang together. So many memories. And there was that pivotal moment, another pivotal moment that I can highlight apart from, you know, being 8 years old, losing my aunt. There was something in between because there was 8 till 20. There was an in between. And I remember I was probably 13 years old. Yeah. And I remember having a fallout with my sister because she was, you know, making decisions that I wasn't in agreement with, you know, and we had a fallout. The trust broke.
Yeah.
The loyalty broke. And my world at that point till 13 was my sister.
Yeah.
Because she took care of me. She was the one that defended me.
Yeah. What did you start to see in your seeking of female friendships?
Yeah, for sure.
Versus seeking dating?
Yeah.
Tell them what you discovered.
What I ended up discovering is that I had, since that fallout, since I was 13 till probably 27. Well, in this case, I have, you know, I've made really good friends with my best friend. Yeah. When I turned 25, it just kind of all happened. And I realized that at 27, when, you know, explaining to you that I've had all of these friends, I've had all of these, but I've always felt like I'm not the best friend. They only want me around because I'm funny. I tell stories. I'm crazy. You know, I like to adventure, but I never felt as if I were the one that they would reach out to. How are you doing? What can I do for you? Yeah. What would you like to go to? Where would you like to go eat?
Yeah.
You know, what's something that we can do to make sure that you have a fun time? I always felt like I needed to entertain, that I needed to make people laugh, hiding all of the pain, being really good at hiding secrets.
You were on this mission to fix the fallout with your sister.
Yeah, for sure. And
other people.
I never realized it until you said it. Almost seems like you've been on this search for your sister.
Yeah.
And it's that same pivotal moment when you stated that, and I started thinking about all of my friendships that I would give in so much. I would go full in. You know, I would pamper them, take care of everything. I would go the extra mile, but I would never receive that back or that attention back. You know, the quality time and saying, hey, like, what's going on in your life, girl? You know, what can I do to help you in this season?
Yeah.
Every time I would see somebody go through pain, I would go on caregiver mode and make sure that they aren't stressing out on anything.
Yeah. And I think we also saw in a lot of the loss that you'd went through, you wanted everyone to be safe and secure. Yeah. So you just begin to recognize, man, this is how I have approached relationships. These are my cycles.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, now that you know, what does a 27-year-old do? And you said.
And I said, they date.
Yes.
You know what? I had avoided it. Maybe I got too busy, you know, with just overachieving. You know, I pursued a degree in business with an emphasis in finance. I eventually got a master's right away, and my world changed.
Yeah.
My world changed because it's after education, you're like, I don't have a plan. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I fell into the trap of living the life that everybody defined me, or I fell into the trap that I started living the life that everybody said that I should live.
Yeah.
So I would allow anybody to define what I should be doing. My family, my friends, my business professors or business, entrepreneur partnerships, wherever I would go, I would literally allow
One
them.
of the things that I remember you said to me that sticks with me is you said, I was living everybody else's dream, but my own.
Yeah. I was literally dreaming about other people's dreams.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that I wasn't even accomplishing one of my own. Because every time I had a conversation, here's the whole point of the Simplicity Project is I love to listen to people's stories. And one of the things that I realized is every story that I captured, every story that I grabbed, that I was able to learn from, I wanted to help them. It's like I went on an entrepreneurial route all the time. And it's like, I want to help you. Let's fix this.
Yeah.
How can we help you?
So part of where I wanted to take you was like, hey, it's time to rewind time.
Yeah.
It's time to go back and get those 30 years. And how do you begin to do that?
And it took me when you said, well, what does a 27-year-old do? And I'm like, well, they date. I'm like, I'm old school. I haven't had men come up to me and say, hey, I find you attractive or you're pretty or let me take you out. I haven't had that. But I have had, really young kids come up to me and compliment.
Yeah.
But they don't have a chance. So I've been in kind of in my mindset, kind of a rejection.
Yeah.
I felt rejected or abandoned or unattractive. Like all of these thoughts come into mind because I did go full career mode. Yeah. I'm just going to devote my life into career, but I didn't realize I was devoted into other people's dreams, other people's goals and visions. And now I want to regain those 30 years. Yeah. I think it's possible. The whole point of why I decided to step into your office was to have a simple conversation. What's going on? What's going on with my brain? I've done it all. Yeah. I've been to several religious organization events. I've been to several business world events, and the answers haven't been there. So I need to figure out how my mind works. I need to figure out how my brain functions. Clinically, I need to have clinical proof. Yeah. And one of the things that I did when you asked me, what am I doing to live as a 27-year-old? It took me about 7 to 8 months to decide.
I remember
if I was going to date, how would I go about it? Because there are no men coming up to me and saying, hey, I want to take you out. And I decided to download an app. I got rid of my pride, but it took me 7 to 8 months. And I downloaded Upward. And yeah, it's been a great experience since. I didn't want to do Christian Mingle because it's like, really? But I did download Upward. It was a process because my desire is to find, fall in love and find my husband, and I want to have kids. Yeah. But I think I went from no dating, avoiding it, to full on having conversations with a lot of people and seeing how am I even going.
Yeah, just seeing you had fun, and really like enjoy yourself.
And it was really cool because people say you just have high expectations, but I want to connect with somebody, not just physically. Obviously, that's a big one for me, but emotionally and mentally, I want to connect.
I think the big thing that you told me that I really loved is like, I don't want to be back in that careger role.
Yeah,
I don't want relationship that's symbiotic, where, we mutually benefit one another versus being this host where this parasite comes and sucks, the very life out of you.
And that's important because I didn't want to put myself out there and have all of these new conversations with strangers on an app without, thinking about, okay, I can't fall back into the trauma, back into what triggers it. Even though I might felt rejected or abandoned or nobody knows who I am, I don't want to fall back into, I want to know their story so deeply that I want to fix them.
Yeah.
But it took me from being in Upward in the dating app from September to probably February of this year, where I started realizing that I could fall back into it very easily.
Yes.
Because I love people.
Yes.
And I want to fix them. And it's a habit that I have. I'm on survival mode. I want to be the hero. I want to be the caregiver. And I went from, talking to a couple to honing it down to meeting a really good man. But at the end of the day, the compatibility wasn't there.
Yeah.
There were some pillars that were half full or not even built. So I needed to not repeat the cycle of being a victim and a caregiver.
Yeah.
And move forward and give myself a shot.
You did.
At love. And I did it. And one of the things that I can talk about is it was so radical because it seemed so real that I had met the one and I made such a radical decision as in like, I'm done. But I did it out of love for myself.
Yeah.
And I don't have to excuse myself of how I felt during those months because I did love that person. I don't have to excuse myself for those emotions. Like I validate them. It's a season and I learn from them. And one of the things that I really want to talk about, we've gone from why did I choose a clinical route? Why did I, eventually land on survival mode? And I fast forwarded 30 years of my life, moving into my relationship situation, losing my sister. I had a fallout with my relationship with my sister. The past 13 to 25 years old, trying to find another sister that could be there for me no matter what happened. And then avoiding men for so long. I mean, I had guy friends here and there, but ran through the same situation where it's like, even if you were to leave the boundary as in, I only see you as a guy friend, like nothing else, the more you hang out with somebody, the more that those feelings and emotions can build because the trust is built. And I ran into those scenarios where I would give it a shot with a guy friend and they'd start to like me. And I'm like, really? I told you this. I don't want to go this route.
So a lot of avoidance. And then the other part is, you would go in really strongly, really impulsively to fix. And that's something that I think could really lead us into the results because really looking at your brain, one way through conversation was really interesting, but then also being able to see it on paper was really interesting.
And you know what? And this is just me being fully blunt. I remember when she gave me the call and she said, hey, we have your results. It took me 1.5 years to get these results. Reason why is I didn't want to have 1 or 2 sessions with her and then her say, we need to put you on medication, or I don't want her to diagnose me at such an early stage based off of my trauma, my pain.
Yeah.
I wanted her to give me the chance to put time, effort, dedication into the advice that she's giving me. Are you tired of living in survival mode? Are you tired in living in a fast forward lifestyle? Are you tired of not giving it a chance with relationships? Are you tired? And I said, yeah, I'm very tired and I want to give it a shot. I'm going to make some changes. And what I've benefited is it's been 1.5 years and I've seen more results from seeking mental therapy in 1.5 years and putting the effort and not playing the victim and saying, this happened to me, or, I can no longer see the people that did this to me. I've had dinner with, one of the ones that I had those sexual experiences with, and I had to go through that. I don't believe in justifying my circumstance. Everybody has a story to tell. My route is not about, blaming people and blaming them for how I behave.
Yeah, you quit avoiding and you got active in the process of working on that mental health pillar. And it showed in the testing. You know, what's really interesting about Elva's testing is I think if we hadn't done counseling prior, you could really look at her results and say, man, she's overthinking. Her brain is running 90 to nothing. And it really looked a lot like ADHD. It really looked like a lot of even possible mania because her brain was going so quick.
And what's funny is she called and she was like, hey, I have your results. I'm like, don't tell me. She's like, well, I've got to summarize it. I'm like, I don't want to read them. She's like, I'm going to email them to you because I need you to read all of the results. I'm like, no, I don't want to read them. All I need to know is everybody's always said, you are always active. You are always in a project, always out and about.
Yeah.
And they always said, you have ADHD.
Yeah.
Right? Or ADD. You have some sort of ADHD or ADD. And then, you know, they would say, oh, you have anxiety or whatever you want to call it. One of the things that I really wanted to have her tell me is, do I need to be on ADHD medication? Because I've never done anything. I haven't taken any type of drug. I haven't even smoked weed ever in my life. So I don't even know what it means to be under the influence of an actual drug.
Yeah, part of, you know, what we know about research is therapy and medication combinations can be good for success, but it's not always necessary. And I think your report really shows that you are a great candidate to continue on the counseling path versus the both counseling and medication path. And so I want to go through a little bit of your brain because I remember when she first came in, the very first thing she said is, I want to know how my brain works.
I do. And it's important that people understand it's like taboo. Once again, don't be afraid to find mental help.
Yeah,
don't find mental help. You know, one of the things that I need to keep clear, don't find mental help from a spiritual pillar. The spiritual pillar has worked for a certain season, but what I found is the spiritual pillar mentorship, they don't specialize in how the brain works. And this is a quick example. I go to college and I've had great professors and I've had sucky professors. There are some who went out and studied law and then became a business law professor and they killed it. They were amazing because they have experience in it and they're able to educate, right? But they also took educational classes to be able to teach and equip. So I remember sitting in college, you know, in one of my classes where we're just reading straight from the book and they're not educating whatsoever, not in one topic.
Yeah, I think in the spiritual pillar, you can receive some counseling and that's true. But there is something different about seeking mental health care. And one of the things I think is really important, even in Hispanic and Latino culture, they often don't seek mental health services. And a lot of that's because there's some guilt or some taboo that you're going against a religious pillar and you're not.
Correct.
We're here,
or against your family.
Yeah, we're here
or your family reputation.
Yeah, just teach you about yourself more. And so one of the things with Elva's brain is her processing speed, which measures the mental processing, like how quickly her brain goes. And it's a strength in the sense that she can learn very quickly and very efficiently. She's at a high average range. She's about 1 standard deviation above what's normal in the normal population. So we can see the brain's just, you know.
So, you know, in normal terms, and once again, this is the first time that I'm hearing the results from the beginning to the end. And it's interesting because remember when I started the first session, like I overthink about everything. Now I have clinical proof that my brain shows that I'm an overthinker.
Yeah. And that would be the negative part of like when your brain works that fast, it can also do it where it can people please, fix, rescue, you know, get up in these situations and
that's
you're thinking,
crazy.
Yeah. And so the rest of your brain is really, really healthy. Also, your other strength is more of your visual side versus your verbal side, which actually surprised me a little bit because you're so verbal, but you're an artist too, and you really shine there. And I actually really think that's how, for a long time, you were able to put the imposter syndrome on this facade.
All my life. I mean, oh, she's a drummer girl, or she can help you build a business, or she can give you good advice on why you're stuck, or she'll travel with you to the ends of the world and figure it out.
Yeah, your intelligence on that side of the brain is really high, and you can kind of see that that's where, your brain will default to, which is really cool. She's smart, in case everybody wanted to know. But yeah, I think understanding which areas of your brain are functioning, how well they're functioning. We can even see, like, if you've had a traumatic brain injury, I would be able to see, wow, like your frontal lobes aren't working as well as they need to, or you've had an injury in this specific part of your brain, and it can affect emotion regulation.
Yeah, for sure.
You can learn so much. So I encourage that. The other part that
I definitely want to, this is just the first exam. I mean, it took us, an entire year to go through the counseling because I wasn't ready to take the exams, and you wanted to wait.
Yeah.
Because I told you, I'm going to put the effort.
Yeah.
I want to start making changes in my life now.
Yeah. Elva wants to see brain scans. I think looking neurologically.
So right now we're starting with, obviously, this is the first season for the Simplicity Project. We're starting with my story. I'm the founder. I'm the CEO. And you guys are going to be able to go through this journey with me. I'm going to invite other guest speakers who have incredible stories, and we can identify, where they've invested in those pillars. I think it's important.
Yeah, we can even see, what's interesting, even on like the scans that you want to have done, you can see that there has been childhood trauma in the brain.
That is insane.
Yeah.
And you know what? Right now I'm going the clinical route with my psychologist, and I told her, I want to get these scans. I want to prove that you can look at the brain, and maybe it is possible to reprogram it. I mean, right now I'm in the journey to be able to rewind 30 years of my life and live like a 29-year-old. Now I'm 29.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've gone on a couple of dates. I've dated a person for 3 months.
I love it.
And I'm having a good time. Yeah. And I'm not trying to go back into the 60-year-old woman in a 29-year-old body. I want to break that cycle, and I don't want to continue to be a caregiver.
If you don't, you can see what will happen, because some of it, you still are showing, some moderate symptoms of anxiety, which is probably that overthinking. And I was telling you even recently, I can still see there's a huge need for safety and security.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a piece of what's going on with your anxiety still, is that you need constant kind of reassurance.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so you can see it still in your testing that your anxiety is up. But it's better. It's moderate. It was probably severe the first time you sat down on my couch. And then we also looked at the areas of your brain, and you did show probable but not certain markers for ADHD. And I think that's really cool. You definitely...
But I'm on borderline, right?
Yeah.
That would be borderline.
Yeah. You could call it, right? Would you benefit from a stimulant or an ADHD med of some sort? Possibly. But I think that you have such strength to reckon, I'm in my cycle again. I need to focus up. I'm
just
over
identifying.
Here. Yeah.
Where do our thoughts come from? Where is this coming from?
But if you needed it, it's okay to do that too.
Yeah.
That's the thing to talk about. Like if you feel that you're at a place where you could benefit from medication, it's going to help you. That's what the testing shows.
And you know what? This is insane, because I've always avoided going through this mental route, clinical route. And who would have thought that I would get as much results as I'm getting right now? You're literally reading my brain and how it functions through paper because of an exam that I took, because of questions that I answered.
Yeah.
And you've already picked up on my history, and now you can put it together and you're like, yeah, this makes sense on how it functions. But you took a year to take the exams, like to examine.
Yeah, I think it's important to really sit and listen. If your therapist is just saying you have bipolar and ADHD and you need to get on meds, you might not be in the right place. Now, dude, bipolar meds change people's lives? Yes. Do ADHD meds change people's lives? Yes. But you need to be sitting with someone that's going to hear you, listen to you, sit with you, stay with you through the 7 to 8 months it took to download a dating app and say, what is going on? Why is she in such avoidance? And why is her brain overthinking the way it is? I'm not going to just go in and drug it right off the bat. Now,
Correct.
It doesn't mean that you won't benefit, but let's do the work in counseling. And so I encourage for you to be in a place where someone's really listening, because your testing showed that you did show really high on a mania scale. And if you're just looking at that and you're not considering everything else, you could say, man, that needs to be medicated. But that has not been the case with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're able to catch your overthinking and say, it's time to rest, Elva. My brain needs to rest.
It's been awesome. I mean, from 27 to 29, I've been able to go to bed without overthinking. Like I've seen the results.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me,
much.
it's important to go back as a kid, as a teenager, and as an adult, 18 and younger. You've got counselors at school, and I never went to one.
Yeah.
I didn't go to one school counselor.
Yeah.
And that I could have gained a lot more understanding of
we know the value
what I went
of
through.
Early intervention. I'm in my 40s and I'm still healing from things. We're all on a journey, and that's kind of the beautiful thing. I want to share this, is I think it's really vulnerable to know that your therapist is also going through things. I could see that Elva was exhausted in this survival mode, but she also saw that I was exhausted.
Yeah, about probably a year later.
Yeah.
You were in a position where I'm like, I sat down, and after our session, I said, you seem really tired.
Yeah.
Really, really tired.
And I was. And I had gone through an injury and I was recovering. And one of the things that I took a month off after that. And I was like, I have to do my own work. And I watched you do yours, and I'm just so excited. That's the journey, the therapeutic relationship with one another. And it's a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that your testing showed. And I think that was probably the hardest thing that I was going to talk to you about, when I reached out, is that it showed that if you would continued in the cycles you were in, you would have been in a personality disorder.
Yeah.
Most likely, probably.
That is insane.
Yeah, because you would have been in a cycle of victim, caregive, victim, right? Victim, caregive, victim. And that's damaging. And you would have begin to react and respond even more extreme, in even more extreme ways, less boundaries, all the things. So you came in, and not only did you rewind time, you stopped what could have been and become even a bigger issue in your personality.
And that's what I got to the point where I was making decisions that I would have never made.
Yes. That's
in my mid 20s. I mean, obviously I'm later 20s now, but I was in a situation where I felt like I was becoming a victim. I had found security. I had found, comfort. I had found, caregiving, somebody that could take care of me and my needs, but for the benefit of them.
Yeah.
I wanted to fix them. Yeah. I had realized that we had something in common from a very early age. I was the only one that could pinpoint, hey, you went through some sort of trauma and it was probably pleasurable like I did. And I wanted to fix that. I wanted to resolve those problems and those issues and that pain, but it's not my job to do it. I honestly don't want to live another 30 years and just boohoo baha, I went through trauma and I'm a victim. I don't want to, I don't want to do that.
Let me ask you, as we kind of come to a close, what's your favorite thing about being a 29-year-old now?
Well, my favorite thing as a 29-year-old is I don't have to pick up my bags and go. Just when things fall out of place or fall out of order, or I wasn't able to accomplish what I hoped to accomplish. My favorite thing is that I'll list a couple. I no longer have to fix everybody's problems or make everybody's dreams come true. Now I know that I'm 29 going on 30, and I'm not just making decisions based off of what other people are influencing or telling me to do, because everybody wants Elva to be successful, but I haven't felt successful. I've felt...
There's a difference in being successful and being whole.
Correct. Yeah. I felt broken.
Yeah.
I've felt broken since I was 8 to 25. And now I feel like I know who I am. I know what I want. And I've started the Simplicity Project. Just sharing stories. Why do we hide things? I don't want to be 67 years old, married to my husband, about to die, and say, hey, I just never wanted to share it because I'm ashamed. But yeah, I was sexually abused at 8 years old, and then I die. Yeah. You know, you hear those stories because you're part of certain organizations that you shouldn't share those things because of the reputation. But I'm willing, you know, there's a phrase in the religious world, I'm willing to go for that one moment in life where I'm going to go as far as I need to and give it my all with time, with effort.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you're willing to turn on the light in the darkness and expose and reveal and talk about hard topics, and to do it publicly.
Yeah, for sure.
And I am honored to be a part of your journey, and thank you.
Well, I want to thank Dr. Short for, you know, coming to this first season of the Simplicity Project. She's been my first guest. And one of the things that I also want to make sure to let all of the followers out there is that if this resonates, if you can relate, the whole purpose is not to take advantage of Dr. Short and her information and her expertise and her intelligence and start a ministry for the religious world or to start a business in the business world. But for me, it's just to be so vulnerable and show people that I'm a human. Yeah. I'm not a superwoman. I'm not here to solve your problems. I'm not here to fix your problems. I'm just here to share other people's stories so you can relate, and hopefully it will spark a thought, because something sparked my thought. How did I get to the point that I was going to give up on life? How did I get to that point? How did I get so low? So I hope you guys have enjoyed this first season. We're keeping it as real as we can. And I'm excited to continue to share more stories. So thank you guys for your time.
Yeah, thank you.